Okay, welcome to your next playlist. This is the 40s, 1949 back through to 1940. I suppose from my point of view, you could say it was the time of my parents. From my point of view, it's also where some of my favourite players are resting. You know, I enjoyed the bebop era and where jazz went through the 40s. I enjoyed some of those, a lot of the artists from that time actually. So I hope you enjoy the playlist. Again, wide and varied, get into it. Now, what we have as far as world events that took place at the time, of course, it is a little dominated by World War II, so I've tried not to dwell on that too much and just try to share with you some other interesting things. Now, the music technology advancements, 1949 saw the 45s come into play. The 45s, if you think rightly, a small disc about this big, one hit song. It's the start of the hit playlists and all that kind of stuff. So they took one song on each side. And then, of course, in 1948, there was the birth of the LP, the long playing record, which is 33 rotations per minute. I think there's 33 on your disc setting, and that was where all the albums got placed, in the future. So that was when they came in. 47, the transistor was invented. Didn't take long to create the transistor radio. And in 1947, I'll read this, Paddy Page was the first to record sound on sound, multi-track recording or multi-track engineered by Bill Putman. Okay, so this is when they're starting to get, instead of just one hit of what's going on, multi-track recording. 1944, Glenn Miller unfortunately went missing. As he was flying over the channel in 1944, it's suspected he was possibly shot down, but no one really knows, and it was a loss to music. But he was there to service the troops, as everyone was in those times. 1949, first lesson. Oh, sorry, first lesson. Oh dear, sorry. 1949, the first test flight of the Havilland Comet takes place. Now, the reason I bring that up is because it was the first passenger jet. And that whole actually being flown around the world and people actually being passenger jets, that started taking place. And as you know, that has changed our world. It's now so much easier to get places and see things, which is great. 1948, Edward Craven Walker invented the lava lamp. Now, why have I put that there? Because I thought the lava lamp was a child of the 70s. It's really 70s look. And I was really surprised to see it invented in 1948. Just felt like sharing that. I thought that was interesting. Okay, 1945, the United Nations is created. Now that's pretty cool. 51 member planets. God, I'm thinking Star Trek. 1945, United Nations is created. 24th of October 1995. 51 member nations. It is a good thing, and it has grown into a great thing for us. 1945, the official end of World War II, September the 2nd, also a great thing for that to be over. What a sense of relief that must have been for our parents, to actually think it's finished. Of course we still fight, but at least it's not quite as the whole planet is. 1943, Frankenstein meets Wolfman. When was it? March the 5th. Now, I mentioned, I would be doing some movies good and bad. Now, it's, when did I say it was? It's 1943. That's quite a while back, so you can't expect the special effects to be brutal, right? But it's worth a watch. It's definitely worth a watch. It's 1942. Now, the summer of 1942. Now, this is something I will mention about World War II. And it's more to do with what musicians did and how musicians often helped times in their own way. The occupants of Leningrad decided to perform Shostakovich's 7th Symphony. Now, they didn't have their main orchestra there. Their main orchestra had been evacuated before the siege had taken place. And they actually didn't have enough musicians, so some of the roles in the orchestra were filled by army soldiers who knew how to play different instruments, And so sometimes they had to rush off to defend something during practices and all sorts of carry on. The people weren't hugely well, as you can imagine, in a siege situation, but they performed this symphony. And when was the date? Oh, sorry, I'm just going to check my details here. August of 9th of August 1942, they performed this symphony, and the applause was so loud that even the Axis forces could hear it. I just thought it was an amazing. I just thought it was an amazing show of perseverance, and very admirable. So yeah, 1942 and 19. The last thing that actually came that was useful. Well, the last point I have to mention for the 40s was 1942 through to sort of 45 was the V2. A rocket was the first man-made object to leave the atmosphere. Now, even though that was, a weapon, it was the start of rocket science. And Von Braun, who later became part of the NASA system, was really more keen on sending rockets to Mars. In fact, that was apparently why his rockets were so big. The Saturn V, it was huge. Sorry. Anyway, in 1942, we managed to leave the atmosphere. So the 40s was the first time we managed to get something out. And I think up until that stage they thought it was impossible. Not sure. Might say that again just to give you an out on this. So it is now time to have a listen to the 40s. Lots of wide and varied music. Some of it's going to start to get challenging, particularly in the classical areas. So persevere. I'll see you in the 30s.